Hey everyone, and welcome to All Things Grace podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Majors, and let me tell you how excited I am about today. We are talking to Ania Halama. We are going to have a conversation that's really about the transformative power of grace and how that moves with entrepreneurship, personal growth, holistic well-being, and love, spiritual fulfillment, all the things, right? We're going to talk about all of these things today with our guest, Ania Halama. Ania is a world traveler who doesn't have dogs that bark during podcasts like me. Ania Halama is a world traveler who has helped thousands of heart-centered individuals with their ideal clients to attract wealth, health, love, mental health, and spiritual wealth as well, which is very, very important and not talked about a lot. As a millennial manifester, Ania is a spiritual integration mentor, plant medicine facilitator. Cannot wait to dig into that. And intuitive digital artist. So I could keep going. Reiki master, practitioner, Ho'opono, EFT certified practitioner, Ho'oponopono master, and so much more. But I do want to I want to say one more thing. I got to give you your flowers about just one more thing here, and that's being listed in Entrepreneur Magazine as top millennial powerhouse. And just the stages that you've been on and how you've spread your message throughout the world. Best-selling author, can't forget that, Rebel's Guide to Spirituality, and Women Gone Wild, the Wealth Edition. We're going to talk about all this more. I could just read this and then say, thank you, see y'all next time, but we're going to not do that. And so I'll just start out with thank you, Ania, for being here and sharing space with us today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So I want to first talk about, whenever I talk to people whose work is around spiritual growth, well-being, internal resources, and love, and all the things like that, I always get, my question is, what was the moment you knew this is my path?
Once I started healing, man, my route wasn't always easy, and it's still not easy. There's still ups and downs, as it should be. Like, that's the fun of life sometimes, right? We just decide to be human in this form, and there's ups and downs and roller coasters all the time. But the moment that I truly started healing myself, I was sick for an entire decade. Anxiety, depression, insomnia. I couldn't hold any food down. I was going blind. Doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So much wrong with me for an entire decade. And the moment that I escaped the quote unquote matrix and corporate America, left, picked up, and bought a one-way ticket to Thailand, sold my car, sold my apartment, put everything in storage. And I really started focusing on my spirit versus on external things. That's when I started truly healing. Meditation alone fixed like 80% of my problems. And then I was like, this is my path. If I can heal myself, I can help other people heal as well. Because so many people, they don't have the tools. And if I had the tools then, I'd still probably be there. But that's not my path anymore. Now it is to actually give these tools to people and help people who are going through similar things that I went through.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people start out with that, if I can do it thing, right? It all starts with like fixing yourself. And I think one of the things that we don't pay enough attention to, I think, in society, is the importance of doing your own personal work and healing yourself. Because in doing that, I think a lot of times we find what could serve humanity in these amazing ways when we really turn inward and do our own work. But you said something that I need to kind of go back to, and that is the word matrix. So, that's real. It's real. And it's real on different levels. So can you talk to me a little bit about the matrix that we're living in right now?
Yeah, so for me, the matrix is constantly being stuck in your head, constantly being like worry, constantly paying attention to the news, to media, what is going on in the outside world versus focusing on what is going on in your inside world. And like we talk about escaping the matrix. If you're any kind of conscious community, you've heard of the matrix, you've heard of escaping the matrix. I'm not the first one to bring it up. If you follow any kind of conscious communities, like, you've heard of this. And just really escaping what society is trying to program on you and really looking internally. What are my own thoughts? What are my own beliefs? What is spirit telling me versus what society is telling me and trying to force onto me?
So let me pivot for a second. You talked about being, you were just sick for a decade. I cannot imagine going through all these different things. Like, I'm finally having breakthroughs around anxiety and depression and all of that. But, I started with the closest thing that I knew wasn't good for me. So I was like, cut the alcohol. So that was the first thing I did. Even in doing that, all these things start to get clear for you, right? So even if you just touch on something that is the closest thing to you, you don't have to like, I don't even know what the matrix is. How can I become? No, start with what you know, because we know that there are a lot of things that we do to ourselves, to our bodies, to our mind, to our spirits that just aren't kind and aren't good. My question to you is, when you are in these places and you're sick for a long time, or you have some ailment, or sometimes you're financially sick where you just deal with financial breakdown after breakdown, whatever it is, it often means walking away from something. Okay. It could mean walking away from people, walking away from jobs, walking away from conversations or toxic influences. Did you, other than just going straight to Tyler, that's the ultimate walk away, if I could say so myself, but did you feel like, what did you walk away from? What are the things that you had to say?
Yeah, I walked away from my entire life. I walked away from my corporate job. I was in corporate America for 10 years. I walked away from that. I walked away from everyone that I knew. I went literally all the way across on the other side of the world that I didn't know anyone. I walked into a culture where I didn't know the language. I didn't even know what language they spoke in Thailand when I left. I was just like, I'm just going over there. I have no idea. I walked away from everything, my friends, my family, my job, security. I walked away from, for the first time in my life, not having stability, not having a paycheck that's getting deposited into my bank account every 2 weeks. I walked away at that time. I had a lot of trauma with my father as well. I walked away from my relationship with my father. I had to say no. I didn't speak to him for 5 years at the time because I had so much trauma around him. Yes, that's healed. We have a relationship now, but I had to walk away from all of that because I knew that I came first. If I didn't, me, myself, my health comes first, my mental sanity at the same time, like, it comes first. If I don't have my health, I don't have anything else. And for the first time, I need to choose myself. And sometimes it's doing the hard things and walking away from all of that so you can choose yourself. And you'll be so grateful that you chose yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I want to talk. So I know that there are people saying, must be nice to be able to go to Thailand to get away from it all and go find yourself and all these things. Like, I can't do that. And why, were you afraid? Was there fear? And the second question is, how did you take care of yourself then, right? Did you have things saved up, or how did you logistically care for yourself?
Well, fear is always going to come up. And I had a lot of people around me that kept telling me, "Oh, like, you're going to get even more sick. You're going to miss your family. You're going to do this." But instead of going into the fear, I turned around and said, "But yeah, great. But what if I find myself? What if I get better? What if I find the love of my life? What if I like start meditating? And like, what if I find my purpose?" Like, looking at the positives versus looking at the fear, because whatever we give fear to, that fear keeps growing. And I've known this for a long time. So don't give in to the fear. Like, turn it around. You are the creator of your own story. You are the one that creates everything in your life, in your world. So why give in to the fear? Why not turn it around and create a positive out of it? And how did I do it? So I was working in corporate America. My background's in graphic design and marketing, and I had a few freelance clients at the time. So I was already doing some freelance work. So it was really easy for me to transition into the online world to work for myself, because I've already had those clients at the time. So I opened up a design agency, and I had more clients, and then eventually started coaching. I hired a coach, and then now I do spiritual mentoring and integration coaching with plant medicines as well.
So when you went, did you have a plan of, I'm just going to stay here until my body tells me it's time to go? Or were you thinking, I'm going to give this 6 months or a year, and then I'm going to do something?
No, I had no plan at all. I was like, I'm just going to go and we'll see where life takes me at the time. I ended up staying in Thailand for a year. And after that, I was like, okay, like I want to try this whole digital nomad thing before the digital nomad thing was a thing. And now everyone's a digital nomad. So I was traveling like 3, 4 months, 5 months to different countries. I've lived in 12 countries around the world at that time. And I've been stationed in Colombia, in Medellin, Colombia for the last 6 years, pretty much. And this is home for me.
Really? I cannot tell you how many. I've had 3 friends in the last, I want to say 6 to 8 months say, I just came back, or I'm going, or, oh my goodness, it's amazing. And they have a huge expat community, folks there. And I was like, oh, that sounds exciting. But I have my eyes on Belize. So that's where I'm working my way to. So I want to talk a little bit about your healing, right? So you had all of these things happening, but you went to Thailand. And did the healing start then? Did you... how did the healing journey, where you're like, I'm feeling better, like, what did that evolution look like, and how long was that evolution?
It started then. So for me, it really felt like it was overnight, but goodness gracious, it was not overnight. I mean, compared to 10 years of being sick, going to specialists and different doctors, and like for 10 years being so sick. So like a couple of months literally felt overnight for me, but it wasn't at all. That's when things started getting better. When I was in Thailand, I was going to meditation classes. I was doing yoga more often. And I finally started getting the mind, body, spirit alignment that I didn't have at all. And I started getting better. All of a sudden, I was sleeping a little bit more. My anxiety wasn't as much. All of a sudden, I wasn't depressed. Also, like, I'm from Chicago originally. Like, seasonal anxiety, depression is a real thing. Thailand is all sunny all the time. Yes, there's rain seasons and like it gets crazy, but it's nothing compared to what December, January, February looks like in Chicago. So it was different. Change of place, change of environment helps as well. Sometimes all you need is a change of environment. Sometimes all you need is like to change your hair color sometimes, and that'll help you shift into like where you're supposed to go. So it started when I was in Thailand, but then as I started traveling, like I was still drinking a lot. I was still partying a lot. And yes, Thailand was a little bit different, but then I went to Europe, then I went to Panama, and it wasn't all that great. Yes, I was away from home, away from my family, my situations, and like that in itself was a lot better. But it really wasn't until I came to Colombia that I fully, like, I can say 100% healed myself. In Colombia, I started working with plant medicines, ayahuasca specifically. That is my medicine. I facilitate it. And like once I started working with ayahuasca, that's when all of the traumas, all of the pain started coming up. And then like I met an entire community of people who we were doing Reiki, we were doing breath work, we were doing ice baths, all of these things. Like over the last few years, like this is a new for me. And like little by little, I really started healing myself. And that's why I was like, okay, like I'm so much better. I can go a whole night without waking up. I can sleep through an entire night. I get like don't have anxiety attacks. I don't have panic attacks. I can see. Oh my goodness. Like I was a graphic designer. So like losing my sight oh my goodness, that like broke my heart so much. All of a sudden my vision started getting better. I naturally started healing my vision. Yes, anything is possible. Like your body is naturally meant to heal itself. We just have to have the right tools for it and the belief for it.
Oh, that's so great. So there's a couple of practices that you engage in. Ayahuasca was one, and I'm just going to pick two because I was looking at your thing. I'm like, how do I choose? I only have an hour, so we're going to start. I wanted to pick two. One I know about well, and the ayahuasca was I know because I read Will Smith's book, and I was like, so. Can you talk a little about? I want to talk about Ho'oponopono, and then ayahuasca experience. So let's start with ayahuasca first. Can you tell us what it's about, what happens? And apparently the tea is whatever you drink is so disgusting, according to Will Smith. Please share what that is.
It is the most vile thing you would ever put in your mouth. Oh my gosh. But it is so good. So it is a sacred brew from the Amazons. I live in the Amazon in Colombia. I mean, granted, not in the actual Amazon, but under the umbrella of it, actually. And it's two plants. So it's the ayahuasca vine as well as either the chacruna leaf or the chalipanga leaf. So you brew them together over hours. Like I've made my own for the first time a few months back, and it took us 7 days to make like a batch of ayahuasca. Granted, we made like 5 liters of it, which is a lot, but it takes a long time, and you carefully brew it, you sing to it, you put your intentions into it, your energy into it, and it creates a tea essentially. And when I say tea, it is not tea. It is like this molasses, like condensed liquid that you drink that sometimes it has like chocolatey cacao undertones, and sometimes it is literally the worst thing you will ever put in your mouth. But like think of like when you're drinking cough syrup when you're younger and you're like, oh, this is gross, I don't want to drink this, but it's good for you. And ayahuasca, the same exact thing. It is vile, but it is good for you. So at first, when you drink ayahuasca, it takes about like, let's say 30, 40 minutes to start hitting. And for me personally, and every single person is different. For me personally, I'll start feeling a shift in vibration, like maybe like different noises that aren't around me, like the ground vibrating a little bit. Like I know I'm shifting in the dimensions. And once that happens, I'm very clairvoyant. So I see visuals all the time. And then my visuals will come in. Some people also, depending on the actual brew, some of the brews, depending what ayahuasca vine they use, if they're using chalipanga or chacruna, depending how it's made, will also depend if it's more body, if it's more visual, if it's more like a purgative. It'll depend. So for me, then that's when like I start seeing visions, and whatever I am connecting to, whatever my intention is beforehand, it'll start coming through. Answers will start coming through. So when you first drink ayahuasca, she deals with all of, and when I say she, like the spirit of the plant, I call this plant female. Plants don't have masculine or feminine energy. It's just what the person picks it up and perceives it as. I mean, plants are just plants. Like there's no female plants, no masculine plants. They're just plants. So for me, ayahuasca always comes through as the grandmother, as a female spirit. And so the first time you drink, she'll start with all of the big things. Like the first time you drink, if you have any traumas with your family, any like injuries, any body ailments, like all of the big stuff that you're dealing with in your life. We say that ayahuasca, like one session with ayahuasca, the first time you're drinking is like 20 years of therapy, because she really deals with all the big stuff. And then as you're drinking more, like I've drank over 100 times at this point, as you're drinking more, people are like, why do you still go drink? Like, aren't you quote unquote healed? I'm like, yes, I am. But at this point, like one, it is my medicine. I'm a facilitator. I need a drink. But like it's just little shifts in perspective, little shifts in life, similar to like, okay, how can I translate this into my regular life? How can I sit in meditation 2 minutes longer? How can I sit in breath work 20 seconds longer? How can I sit in this ice bath for just 30 seconds longer? Yeah, it's hard, but just those little shifts will make all the adjustments. And same thing with ayahuasca. It's just those little tiny shifts because you've dealt with all of the big stuff already. And anyone watching this, please do your due diligence. Ayahuasca is not for everyone. I need to make that disclaimer. It is not for everyone. Please do your due diligence. Feel free to reach out to me and ask me questions as well. It is not for everyone. If you are called to it, yes, do your research, do your due diligence, like reach out to people, go to a reputable source. Not all shamans are A shamans, similar, like not all doctors are A doctors. There's D doctors out there, and you can have a bad trip. You can go into psychosis. You can get seizures. It is possible. Please, please, please do your due diligence. If it is not calling you and you're just like, oh, this is some kind of like cool thing, like I want to try it, all my friends have tried it, please do not try it. Like ayahuasca will call you. It is a spirit that actually calls you, and you will know if she's calling you. For me, for example, the first time that I did it, I wanted to do ayahuasca for like 5 years. It kept coming up. Like every time I opened up like a book, something about ayahuasca. Chelsea lately is talking about ayahuasca. Will Smith's talking about ayahuasca. Like ayahuasca is coming up. And so like I knew it started calling me, but I was scared. I'm like, goodness, like the unknown is always scary. I was so scared. Mm-hmm. And so I went to Colombia and I was like, okay, if ayahuasca is meant for me, I will find it. It will find me, and all the right things will line up. I'm in a conscious cannabis ceremony my first couple of days in Colombia. And in that ceremony, it's good versus evil, like my entire ego deteriorating. And that's why I was scared, because I heard that she attacks your ego first. And like when I was in my 20s, my ego was massive. This 20-year-old Leo from Chicago. Of course, my ego is massive.
Leo, that's right.
So I was scared of that. I was scared that she was like, what am I going to find out about myself? So in this conscious cannabis ceremony, like just good versus evil in my head for hours. I went to the bathroom. I'm washing my hands. And this is the first time after ceremony. This is the first time I audibly heard spirit talk to me. Like I'm very clairvoyant and I'm very claircognizant, but audibly, like spirit doesn't talk to me audibly. Still, spirit doesn't talk to me audibly.
You got it. Go ahead.
So I heard audibly, "You're ready." And I'm like looking around. I'm like, one, who said that? Like, am I going crazy? What am I ready for? Who's speaking to me? The very next day, a friend of mine texted me and he's like, hey, I'm going to an ayahuasca ceremony. Do you want to come? I'm like, yes, I'm ready now. Like she will call you. You will know it. Like I knew that I needed to let go of my ego in this conscious cannabis ceremony so I can fully like be present with ayahuasca. She called me. She told me, you're ready. Okay, you are ready now. And I've heard many of stories similar to that. Like she will call you. Do like if you have an interest, yes, do your due diligence, all that stuff. But if you don't, if you're just like, oh, this is kind of like a cool thing to do, all my friends have done it, do not do it, because that's when it could go down the negative route and you can have a bad trip and all these bad things can happen.
Wow. So how long are you under, so to speak? Like how long from the time you take the first sip to the time you go, whoa, what was that? How long is that period?
So it really depends what kind of medicine you're drinking and where you are drinking. So I have been in ceremonies that lasted 2-3 hours. I've also been in ceremonies that lasted 8 to 10 hours. So it really depends on the medicine and how it's being made. So what kind of ayahuasca vine? Because there's a bunch, like I want to say at least 20 different kinds of ayahuasca vines. So depending on what kind of vine they use, depending on if they're using chalipanga or chacruna, will depend on how long it is as well. But let's say on average 4 hours.
So do you have a say in what the vine is? Or is it kind of like it's made for you and you are to trust that the perfect combination or the perfect vine or the perfect thing is for you? And it will happen? Or do you have a choice in that?
You don't, I mean, unless a particular center, and please, like, ask the centers. If you're reaching out to centers, ask them, what kind of vines are you using? Are you using your chalipanga? Are you using shakuna? Ask these questions, because we want this to be integrous. We want it to be in alignment. The shamans want you to be asking questions as well. Like, not just, oh, here's another white person going, like, they watched a movie on ayahuasca, they read the Will Smith book on ayahuasca, they're like, I need this. No, ask a question. We want you to ask questions. We want you to have all of the information as well. You don't usually have a choice because they just make a brew. However, you can reach out to centers beforehand. Oh, what kind of ayahuasca are you making? Are you using sky ayahuasca, tiger ayahuasca, black ayahuasca? There's tons of them out there. You can ask these questions beforehand. But ayahuasca will always give you what you need and not what you want. She'll always, no matter what, it will be what's right for you in that moment, because she knows, like, it's a much greater spirit than your actual human body is, and she knows much more than you do. So just have that trust that it's okay, everything's going to be great.
Now, this is the last question I'm going to ask about this, because we got to go on the whole Ho'oponopono. But Will Smith, that's the only reference point, so just, hey, was saying that he went back another 14 times, and he says 3 or 4 of them were so utterly devastating and just hard and just so horrifying, right? And so I think I just wanted to say that because, the way he described it in his book, it went beyond a bad trip. It was like, for him, it was viscerally devastating. And I think, so what you're saying is what you need to know versus what you want to know, what you need to feel versus what you want to feel. And so for anyone listening, I think there's a lot of amazing answers that come through. There's a lot of just pure light and like all those things. But I think that we got to also slay our dragons. And why wouldn't we do it in that form as well? Right? Wouldn't it make sense that that's just one way that we need to contend with some of those dragons and demons that are, pulling us around our lives against our will or knowledge a lot of times?
Definitely. And that's kind of what I was saying. Like, it's 20 years of therapy grouped into one evening. So yes, in 20 years, okay, you'll go into all of those demons, like little by little by little, but that's 20 years span versus one evening. Okay, is everything. Here are the bombs. Here are the demons. Here are the kings, the princes, all of it. All of it. Here's World War II, all of it. Yeah, there will be some days that might be hard. It's not all la-di-da-di-da, la land, love and light. Like, you need to go through the darkness to get to the light. But even if there is a dark ceremony, for myself, and I've had them as well, like, I know light always comes out of it. I know that I need to look at these shadows. I know I need to look at these demons for whatever reason, so that light can come through, because there's always light at the end of the tunnel. There always. And this is also why I focus on integration coaching as well, because someone who goes through those demons, goes through like those slaying dragons, they're like, this happened. I don't know how to comprehend this. I don't know how to discern this. I don't know what this vision meant. Like, was this a real vision? Should I like continue down this path? Should I do this? Like, I don't know. This is where an integration mentor comes into place to help you decipher some of those things that come up for you and really see, okay, how do I put these into my real life afterwards versus, okay, I have all these visions and I just don't know what to do with them now.
Wow. And you are an integration, what did you call it? Integration mentor. You are. Yes. So, okay. So you have a place in Colombia right now where you hold these sessions or these?
Yes. And I'm actually in the process of building an actual center as well.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. Well, I'll make sure to put all your information. I know that there's going to be a lot of people who are interested in, you call somebody and they can talk to you over the phone, but there's something about having a conversation with someone that you've seen that has been through it and is invested in the person, our wholeness, right? And our spiritual fulfillment and being able to just kind of deal with some of those things, because we all have these things that we're dragging around life and it is so heavy. And there's guilts and burdens and shames and all of those things just are dragging us down. So any way to make it lighter in a facilitated and curated space where you're safe, with someone who has that experience, I can't imagine that being, anything but great. But that's me. All right. So I want to talk about the second one is Ho'oponopono. I've read the book, or I'm familiar with it, and I think it's an amazing thing. Can you share a little bit? And I promise I won't go on for 20 minutes like I did this.
First off, congratulations for saying Ho'oponopono correctly. Many people that read that, they're like, wait, what? So great job. So Ho'oponopono is ancient Hawaiian Huna tradition that is very simple. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. 4 phrases in this prayer, just saying them over and over and over again. But it goes so much deeper than that. So Ho'oponopono is the belief that we're going back to ground zero with everything that we're doing. Everything that we attract into our lives, literally the good, the bad, and the ugly, is all a reflection of us. So we need to clean on us in order to clean everything that is in our surrounding that comes to us. This might be hard to say. It might be hard for people to receive as well. Like, okay, your partner cheating on you, that is your fault. Your father getting cancer, that is your fault. And it's hard to accept things like this. And sometimes like things that come up for me, I was like, ooh, like that's really hard. Like, how did I cause my dad to have cancer? Like that's not real. But it is the belief that everything that you attract because of who you are. So cleaning on the words, going back to ground zero and cleaning the slate completely with I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And just saying those over and over and over and over again. And there's some really, really beautiful stories. And my favorite stories, and I'm sure like if your audience knows what Ho'oponopono is, then they've heard this story where this Dr. Lee was a beautiful, beautiful doctor in Hawaii, and there was a insane asylum that was, I believe it was in Hawaii or California, it doesn't matter, an insane asylum with like 500 patients, and like the people that work there, they're like, okay, I heard you do this stuff, this Ho'oponopono stuff, like I really want you to help us. Please, can you come and help us? And he's like, yeah, I'll come and help you, but I don't want to see any of the patients. Give me all of their files, give me all of their work, and I'm going to work on them from here. And they're like, what do you mean you're going to work on them from here? He's like, trust me, like you came here to me to like for my expertise, this is what I'm going to do. So he received all of the files and just kept cleaning. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. All day, every day, any moment that he had, he just kept cleaning, because again, it's the belief that I attracted these insane patients into my life. It's my responsibility to clean them. I don't need to see them. It's my responsibility to clean on them. So he kept doing it over and over and over again. And then within a couple of weeks, like the patients started getting better. Within 6 months, everyone got better. They closed down the insane asylum. There was no more like patients because they were all better. And it just went down to going back to ground zero and cleaning. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you.
When you think about so as a conflict strategist, right? As a difficult conversation strategist, if people could just say those words, I'd be out of work. Like people just want to hear, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Thank you for being part of my journey to learn and be. So there's power in those words if you take it out of the construct of this what, right? If you take it out of that and just take the statements themselves, how amazing it would be if people owned conflict and owned arguments and owned disagreements or owned all the things that happen to them from that basic perspective. But even more so, it's kind of like when you have the power to own it, you can transform it. If it's like these things just happen to me and you take on that's fear inducing.
Victimhood, yeah.
Victimhood, and it's fear inducing. These things just happen to me. And, I'm not here to change anybody's thought around their faith, but I think we're both here to offer a different way to see it that gives you the power to say, if you have a 17-year-old that's 17ing in your house, and for those of you who do, you know what that means, and you're like, I'm just at the effect of their decisions, and then you go into your own space as another tool to say, I'm sorry. I love you. I'm sorry for anything. Please forgive me for any shortcomings that may have contributed to this. Thank you for being my child. Thank you for being, whatever it is. Like, there's power in that. And I believe there is transformative power in Ho'oponopono, that whole idea of taking it as your own.
It's beautiful. It's taking radical responsibility for everything in your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, taking that radical responsibility.
Woo. I love radical responsibility. First of all, let me write that down. I want to talk about, so thank you for sharing like what that is. And whether it's ayahuasca, whether it's Ho'oponopono, whether it's prayer, whether it's meditation, I think there's power in saying and pulling these things to you, because you're actively saying, I am ready. I want this. I want to be better, right? It's that, all these things. I'm just saying them as a, for us all to engage with this, with what we're saying. But I want to talk about, nutrition, right? So you're a plant nutrition ist. And what does that mean? What do you eat? And this is one of those things I feel like, YouTube, what do you eat in a day? But what is it that you take into your body and why? And what do you recommend in this world of like quick, toxic, poisonous things that we're just snarfing down? What is your foundational beliefs and values around nutrition?
Yeah, so I was pescatarian for 10 years, then I went vegan for 2 years. Now I'm slightly flexitarian, mostly eating fish, but I do have chicken here and there. I don't eat pork and I don't eat red meat. I haven't ate them in a long time. Probably should, because I have an iron deficiency, so I should be eating red meat, but I just feel the best when I'm eating fish. Sometimes chicken here and there. I try to eat as green and as whole foods as possible. So granted, I do live in Colombia, so like non-GMOs, like it's just a lot easier, organic thing. Like it's just a lot easier for me over here than it is in the US, the UK, Canada, etc. Because I'm living in a different country than the US. So I do try to eat lots of veggies. White rice is a lot better for you. I know the misconceptions think it's brown rice is better for you. White rice has these enzymes that it's easier for you to break down in your body. I'm big on biohacking as well. So like lately, I'm really trying to, as a woman, I'm really trying to sync my cycle with what I'm eating, because there's different times in your month where you should be eating different things. So sometimes more carbs, sometimes more protein, sometimes more veggies, sometimes whole raw veggies. So like that's what I'm working on at the moment, is like really trying to sync my cycle with what I'm eating as well. But just trying to eat as whole as possible, eating the whole color of the rainbow, lots of proteins. I still struggle with this. I do not eat enough protein. And that's something that I'm really working on. Like it's a lot of protein. You should be eating a lot of protein, especially as women. We just don't eat as much. And I'm working with a nutritionist. I'm working with a fitness mentor at the moment. And he tells me every day, Ania, eat more protein, eat more protein. So protein shakes have been my best friends lately, like really trying to up that protein, and lots of greens, lots of vegetables, just eating as whole as possible.
Yeah. Okay. I have struggled with, and my family, they're going to say, here she comes with this again. But I struggle with this idea of, and it's just a hang up mental, right? Of how can we eat dead things, dead animals, dead, right? And expect them to give us life. Like fruits and vegetables make sense. Comes from the ground. They still have active enzymes. It's still alive. It's still all of those things. But then the way we do our animals here, and all of that. Now that's in Colombia. I would imagine it's different. But I am wondering how those two work in your mind. And you said you're vegan for a while. There was a reason why you went vegan, and there was a reason why you stopped. And so, can you talk a little bit about, for folks out there who are like me, who are kind of struggling with? And I will say, admittedly, there's something I kind of feel better. My body does okay on chicken, but my mind doesn't. So I haven't been able to figure out that sweet spot of, I don't want to kill animals. Like, and it's not ethical thing. It's for me, it's like, how does that work? How do you kill something and then put it, So maybe you can't answer and solve all the world's,
Yeah,
but I'd
happy
love
to.
to hear.
So we're actually killing a lot more. A lot more is dying if we're eating a full vegan diet versus eating animals, because
Say more.
all, yes, all that it takes um, to cut down all of the plants, all of the oxygen that is released, all of the chemicals that are released, you're actually killing a lot more by eating a whole vegan than by eating one animal. So that in itself, but it's the way of life. It is like literally the creation, the circle of life. Like animals are here to put on our planet so we can eat them. I had this vision in ayahuasca actually, like, because again, I was vegan for 2 years and it wasn't like any ethical or anything like
Mhm.
why I went vegan. And same thing with red meat. Granted, I don't eat pork for spiritual reasons, but that is like a whole ethical and spiritual reason, but that's just me. But you, okay, this chicken, yes, how they are going about creating these chickens. Are they like chicken farms, or is it like a happy chicken that's like growing and loving its life and you eat that? It's very different energy that you're putting in. You are taking the energy of those happy chickens and you are recreating it. You are creating that life. Think of the animal kingdom. Like animals eat animals, so why shouldn't we eat animals as well? Like an animal it's living, it's life. Like yes, there is a hierarchy of animals and there are different animals. Like you're not going to go and eat like a buffalo or like an elephant right now, but a chicken is like, that's its purpose. It's here to give you the eggs, it's here to give you nutrition, it's here to give you protein. And as a conscious human being, like, thank you for this. And I also believe in like praying over your food, like giving energy to that food so it can transmute it in your body as you are eating this animal. Thank you for this animal. Thank you for this animal, sacrificing it. May it nurture me, may it heal me, may I grow, may I transmute that energy into something good afterwards.
Interesting. Dang, okay. That's fair. I was watching the what is the show with the blue folks, the movie with the blue folks, Avatar.
Okay.
And I remember in the movie, like, she, kills the buffalo or the animal, whatever it was in Avatar world, and then runs over immediately and is like, does a prayer and is like stroking it, like and I don't know if it was a Ho'oponopono or what she was saying in her Avatar language, but I do feel that there's something real about that. I just haven't reconciled it yet in my body. It makes sense, right? The circle of life. And I think there are limitations. I don't think that we as humans we're the only animals on the planet that drink the milk of another animal. Like, that's kind of weird. Because somebody along the one time said, hey, why don't we drink the milk of this thing? And everybody's like, yeah, it doesn't make, I have my hangups. But I really do believe that there's something very powerful what you're saying in that circle of life and how we treat it and honor it when we put it in our bodies, right? So yeah, thank you for that. I have one more question.
Yeah.
And I ask everyone this question on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 is, I don't like this life. I got the wrong one. I want to do over. I'm out. To 10, which is, I can't imagine a more amazing life. 10 is like, I don't know what to ask for. I can't think of anything that I would want more. Like, this is amazing. So where would you give your life? And if it's not a 10, what do you think, do you know what was missing to make it a 10, or what could make it a 10?
Yeah, I love that question. So I'll say an 8.5. It my life sounds like it could be a 10, but I'm going to go 8.5 because we can always do better. We can always grow. We can always learn new things. We can always have better friends. We can always have more finances. We can always do more podcast episodes. We can always be on more things. Like we can always have more. So it's, if you're not growing, you're dying. So I don't want to be at a 10 because that means that I'm done.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Great answer. I love it. Okay, great. So thank you so much for sharing. For folks who have heard anything today that was really, that heard something that connected with you and you want to learn more, you want to connect with Ania, how do you do that? Where can we find you? And I'll put everything in the description too. And
so I'm on everywhere pretty much. Ania Halama, and my website, Ania Halama. And then my Instagram is Ania Travels. Everywhere else is Ania Halama.
Okay, perfect. I will definitely be in touch with you because I want to learn more and I want to do more traveling. And this is really great. So I really appreciate you spending time with us. Thank you for continue to do what you're doing. You are out there doing the big things and asking, and helping people with some of their tough questions, their internal questions, how, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? What's my purpose? Got all these life things happening. How do I transcend those things in order to find that deeper meaning and connection to humanity and what my purpose is? So thank you so much. And we'll see. I'll see you around. I'm sure I will.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle. This was a pleasure.
Thank you. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please click the small bell and become a subscriber and join me in spreading the message of grace.